Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical issues here. Let's see if I can fix the light here. Hold on. All right. Guys, it's Friday. I am so ready for the weekend. My workout yesterday just still has me gassed. And the kids did not cooperate going to bed last night. But we've got a day to get through here still because we've got a bunch of things happening, including some Fed speak. And, I left that position on yesterday. I probably shouldn't have because we're quite underwater on this. This is only one contract. So, I don't know. Maybe we can manage it. I don't know if there's a whole lot I can do. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay. I'll think about it for a little bit. Let's come over to the charts in the meantime and kind of see what happened here. So, pretty big downturn in the treasuries. This was kind of like before the news, and then that CPI really went. But in the overnight, they have been climbing back up here. So, it's interesting that it's like that overnight action where they've been the most bullish sometimes. By the way, there was a little bit of risk aversion in China that might have something to do with it too. Here we've got the S&P 500. They're doing okay. Oil, a little bit of a jump. Gold and silver kind of in a mean reversion trough since the Federal Reserve meeting on Wednesday. Silver not looking so hot, is it? Copper. There's copper. So you can kind of see that China weakness overnight. Here's the Japanese yen. So this move is highly correlated to the yen. Did the guys over in Japan say something? And then you got Bitcoin still kind of struggling there a little bit in the 6,500 range. And again, it wouldn't take very much. $10,000 to $15,000, Bitcoin would be in trouble. I'm thinking positive for them still. I still think that Bitcoin will probably pull it out and be positive for the year. All right, so now that I'm looking at this and everything, and let's see here, what is our schedule? Owl speaks at the top of the hour. Yeah, I don't want to mess with that. I'm gonna take the loss. On the sim trade. Let's come over and start writing our stuff here. So we need to copy yesterday's to 2024-03-21.md. There's this other one that's at 18. Wait. Open 2024-03-18. Yeah, that's what I thought. 2024-03-19.md. $18, $19, $20, $21, and then today is the 22nd. Okay, it's today. Actually, we have the template. Let's just MV template to today. I love how New Show gives me recommendations. Okay. Okay, so description. End of a busy week with major Fed speakers on the schedule. It's 7 o'clock. Powell speaks. Overnight, China weakness. And movement in Japanese yen. End of week close. So end of week flows, meaning some people might be reluctant to take risk. People reluctant to make new positions, take profits, hold positions. Right? That's something that we expect to see come through. All right, so I think that's good enough for now. We did have like some Canadian numbers at the bottom of the hour. Canadian core retail sales spot 5% versus a negative spot 4%. All right. So anyways, good morning, APOL. Good morning, BoloFX. Oh, and by the way, guys, we did, I ended up getting into some discussions yesterday during the stream at work and so forth, and so I wasn't able. There's some important issues that we had to work out. Some production issues we've been experiencing, but shouldn't have any of that today. But there was some questions and so forth that we didn't get to yesterday. So if you guys are here this morning, make sure you ask those questions so we can get to those. And we do kind of have to talk about that CPI because at first the CPI looked kind of mixed, but what really happened, and I think the reason why the market started to react the way that it did, was that when in the actual kind of like comments and things like that, the report was very much like, we're seeing some things that suggest that we're going to see some real inflation in the next quarter in consumer goods and so forth. So that, I think, is a major factor behind why the treasuries fell so much yesterday. And then there was also some banks saying, well, not banks, actually like large fund managers, like I think it was Vanguard, that said, actually, we don't think that the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates at all this year. So we're starting to see large market participants kind of start to question this idea that the Federal Reserve is going to cut 3 times this year. Which is very, very curious. So it's odd to me that you had the big Federal Reserve meeting this week. This meeting was supposed to be a big deal, but then as we got closer to it, when we realized that they weren't going to cut rates in March, because originally people thought that they would cut rates in March. So that got moved back to June, and that made the March meeting kind of a nothing burger. But, people were still looking forward to it. And then it seems to me like what's happening afterwards is like they immediately ignore what happened at the Fed meeting or what the market's take on the Fed meeting was, and are saying other things are way more important. And I think that that's right. Like the biggest thing right now is that we're going to be extremely data dependent right now. So any kind of measure of employment and inflation that we get in the next 2 or 3 months, you're probably going to see pretty major flows coming off and trading that, especially in the treasuries. Although there are there is kind of some skew to it, right? Like in situations where it's hawkish, the treasuries may not react as much as they should. It's a moist morning here. You live in Florida, doesn't it? Doesn't it rain every morning in Florida? Isn't it coming into the rainy season? That's how it works down there, right? In Florida, you don't have like fall and spring. You just have the rainy season and the dry season. It just shows my Floridian anti-Floridian bias. Apparently, people confuse Florida with Miami. Miami is like its own climate entirely. Oh, really? Well, I've never been to Miami, but I was thinking more like Orlando. You know? But they're kind of similar, aren't they? Let's say like, okay, here's my thinking of it. Here's how I see it. Everything Orlando and below is like tropical. We have our moments in Central Florida weather, but it is generally stable. It hasn't really rained on us in a bit. But I also thought that like everything like around here is kind of tropical-ish until you get to like past Houston. Houston is pretty muggy. They have nice beaches in Texas. It's starting to get kind of dry here in Utah, but it's nice. I worked out in shorts yesterday during my I'm trying, because it's spring. When it gets really cold, it's so effing hard to work out. But like in that optimal period, you know, where it's not too hot, I really try and take advantage of it. And when it gets super hot, it's not too bad because I'm in the shade and I have a swamp cooler and I can just load the swamp cooler directly on me. So that's okay. But I'm trying to like work out extra hard. And there's a big event coming. I'm not going to weightlift in it, but you know, I want to be in decent shape for that. So, but I think I overdid it yesterday, perhaps, because that combined with like didn't get in bed until a little bit later than usual. Didn't really fall asleep until later than usual, and then the kids were, you know, screaming, and well, not screaming this time, but just being a general nuisance later than usual. And I woke up today, you feel like a bag of bricks, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I can't wake up. Not my top form this morning, I think. But, you know, the workout didn't help. And I'm pretty sure that tomorrow my core is going to be hurting, because I think that's what I hit the most, was my whole core area. Because everything that I did was really, really rough on my core. And I spent, man, so the reason why I went a little bit later than usual is because I was trying to write this video for Momentum. And I went back and forth with ChatGPT like 5 or 6 times to get like, this is just like 4 sentences. I think I spent like 90 minutes writing 4 sentences about Momentum. Isn't that funny? Oh man, I won't read it. I think it needs a little bit more work before I start reading it to you guys, but. And then there was all that discussion that we didn't get to yesterday because I ended up having meetings. So to go into a little bit more detail about what's going on, the team that I am on at work is getting passed between 2 different general groups. So we've been more under the product umbrella, and we're moving over to like the DevOps umbrella. So like different managers and things like that. And so those other teams, they have a different stand-up meeting at a different time. And so when we went to that meeting, there was a lot of discussion to be had about it. So I think that in the future, I may still be having 10 o'clock Eastern time meetings, but in the future, they shouldn't be so long. And I don't really know how that's going to work out, but it is something that we're going to have to keep in mind. I tell you, man, either way, the amount of energy that I have been putting into the day job is definitely more than it was. And it does seem to have an effect on the trading. I am not as anxious to get into positions and take risks and stuff. But I think that it should allow us to play a little bit more on higher time frames. So doesn't mean that like we have to quit or anything like that, but I probably will take a little bit of time to make adjustments and figure out how to balance all of that. Which, by the way, reminds me, I do want to come in here and check one of my machines. But I just want to continue this thing from yesterday because we didn't really get into it, but it's like, there's some stuff happening, man. There is some stuff happening in the politics that, I'm going to say I find a little concerning. Like, things in politics are just escalating so effing quickly. Good grief. Okay, but wait, hold on. Let me do this first. Okay. Capitulation happens slowly at first and then all at once? Well, I don't think that anybody is capitulating, though. Okay, we're good. Yeah. Okay, we're good on that front. Yeah, we're good on that front. I think we're okay. Well, no. So, like, okay, here's the thing. In politics, we have to acknowledge that one of the things, if you're going to be a political watcher, is that people will push certain political narratives. They will push certain stories. And they try and make it appear organic. So it's kind of hard, if not impossible, to know whether a story is really a big deal or whether somebody's just trying to push a narrative on you. And there has definitely been some narrative pushing on the Republican side around issues relating to immigration and things like that. We're talking, a couple of days ago about, like, for instance, this story about this girl that got killed by an illegal immigrant. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure that that's happened many, many times in the past. And I do feel like that there is kind of a political pushing component to this. Not that I'm saying that, like, illegal immigrants should be here and doing, whatever they want or killing people. Of course, we should be securing the border. But I do kind of detect some of that political operative at work. Because listen, I know how the Republican political operatives work. I've been involved in that to some extent, although more on like local campaign levels, right? Okay. But yesterday, it started to take on a life of its own, and it's very startling to me. Like, things happening that I don't think you can chalk up to, oh, they're just making a big deal out of this to try because, you know, they think that it will help them in the election. No, this is more like, okay, like it is having an effect on people, and now people are starting to react to it, and the reactions that I'm seeing to it are like super wild and frankly scary to me. Like, I am at this time very concerned that somebody's going to do something, like somebody's going to get hurt from all of this or something. So what do I mean by that? Well, so have you been watching this story with a woman whose childhood home has been occupied by squatters in New York State, or like in Queens, I think it is? So her mom lived there, and when her mom died, she inherited the estate. And when she went to go and, you know, look at the house, there were already squatters in the house. And apparently in New York, you get like squatters' rights if you've been there more than 30 days. I don't know if they've been there 30 days, but so is this whole thing. And it really, really got a lot of traction in the media. Like the squatters thing has kind of been like this slow trickling story that's been happening over time. Story here and a story there about people that had to deal with squatters and the amount of money that they lost from people squatting. And like, it's become like a profession for some people, apparently. Like, there are people out there that literally, they just squat for a living. And then by the time they are forced out of a place by the courts, they're already somewhere else. And, you know, legislatures, for whatever reason, have been like really slow to respond to this and say like, hey, maybe we need to do something. I think that part of it is that, especially in Democrat areas, they are more concerned about like landlords kicking people out unjustifiably. And so they're kind of saying, yeah, oh, well, that's just kind of like, that's too bad that people can take advantage of it like that. In Florida yesterday, they passed a bill about it. Right. Okay. Well, like, it is escalating very quickly, guys. So the first thing was, with that story yesterday, apparently some vigilantes came over to the house and tried to kick the squatters out. They were unsuccessful, but some people came over and tried to kick the squatters out. Okay. Then there was a guy on TikTok who is an illegal immigrant, or let's say part of the migrant movement or something like that. Basically, straight up saying on TikTok, like, you can go and occupy homes and take them over. So you have immigrants on TikTok saying like, just take over people's homes. Didn't even say anything about like, well, you know, like, it has to be like a place that isn't being occupied right now. You know, like it's in transition between owners or something like that. No, they're just like, oh, you can just enter into people's houses and start occupying them. What? Super, super, super crazy. Like, that's where I'm like, something bad is going to happen. Because look, you can have politics and you can have Republicans and Democrats at each other's throats and having really wide disagreements about what's going to happen in the country, right? That's the good old America that I know it's kind of like set up to be that way. That's the way that it was in the 90s, okay? But when it turns into like, we're going to use our half and the power that we have to just punish and make life miserable for the other half, up into the point of like, yeah, we're even going to let people like take your property away. Like that is not a situation that can last for very, very long. And then At the very same time, you have migrants storming the National Guard troops over in Texas, where they've been preventing migrants from coming over. So they are overpowering the National Guard and basically invading the United States. Those are not planned things. This is just all a bunch of things organically happening all at once. And it's like a really huge escalation, because now all of a sudden the headlines are immigrants are invading the border and occupying people's homes. Like, man. I remember a couple months ago when I was talking about the election and saying, like, it seems to me like the Republican Party's biggest liability right now, aside from Donald Trump himself and all of that stuff, is that they don't support the Ukraine war. And Americans overall still support the Ukraine war. I'd say that at this point, Republicans, it's close, but the majority of Republicans at the very least think that we're spending too much there. So that's a political liability. It is. But so far, it has not factored into the politics whatsoever, because you just keep getting story after story, mostly on the immigration front, that favors Republicans. It's just like, it's really wild. I've never seen a situation like usually it's a pendulum, right? And I can kind of look at, okay, like, are things in favor of Republicans or Democrats right now? The narrative, because you know that if it's in favor of Republicans right now, that it's going to swing and it could be in favor of Democrats a little bit later. And I'm not really seeing that this year. It seems like every story goes the Republicans' way. Except for, of course, I guess the one thing that you could say is kind of in favor of the, well, I don't even know if I would say it's in the favor. I think one of the issues that I'm seeing here is that, like, Democrats are doing their thing and getting what they want, but it's not helping them like they think it should. like they think that prosecuting Donald Trump and seizing his properties. Did you see that Letitia James is already putting in the process to seize properties from Donald Trump, even though the deadline for him to have to pay up and everything is like still weeks away? And she's moving to seize properties. That is going to be like a huge legal mess. But I'm going to bet you that it just improves Donald Trump's support. Let's see here. In Illinois, we had a Joel De Jesus Diaz got arrested with 5 fully loaded machine guns, wearing real body armor and a cover mask, and got 9 penalties. They refused to list this guy's address or any information at all about him. Not the crime. He was arrested 50 minutes before a marathon. Whoa, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. And it's in the one state where many people are actually worried and concerned Illinois will throw him back on the street. Yes. Yes. Or like I saw a headline yesterday that like a major drug lord was picked up by authorities down in Texas crossing the border, and they just released him back into the US. What? So I don't know what's going on, but I feel like that the political situation in the United States is like escalating very, very quickly, and I'm starting to get concerned that people are going to start doing dumb things. People really need to tone it back. I don't know why Democrats think that all of this stuff is going to help them, but I'm begging you guys, you've got to tone it down, man. Because this is just getting stupid. And the lack of it. Yeah, the media is kind of... Well, like, media right now is just in shambles. Like, honestly. The only thing that makes them money anymore is talking about Donald Trump. It's nuts. It's especially, like... The thing is, you want to have, like, deep investigative reporting and reporting that will push the status quo or bust, I shouldn't say push, investigative journalism that will bust the status quo and reveal truth to us that is being hidden from us. That requires money and a large amount of financial independence, and they do not have that right now. They do not have that right now. The media has basically, all media outlets have like wedded themselves to a certain ideological bubble group to just serve that one group, and then they're not making a whole lot of money from it. So they don't have independence. I'm sure that the calls for toning it down will fall on deaf ears. Well, I mean, actually, I think it's more complicated than that. The far left. Okay, so we got to understand. I think that the factions on the left are very different from the factions on the right. A lot of the factions on the right are not wanted. They're just not wanted. The Republican Party very, very much wishes that they would just go away. And that includes, quite frankly, the libertarian wing of the party. That the by and large, the Republican establishment, the politicians, the people at the Republican RNC, like apparatus, they don't like them. They wish they would go away, right? Oh wow, Powell is already done with his remarks and didn't really say anything important. So that's one big flow that we thought would come through here today that we don't have to worry about. Didn't say much. Yes, the Republican Party very much wants to be Democrats. Yes. I'm not saying that I wouldn't. You might be saying that they want to become Democrats from a policy perspective. I don't think that that's true. I think that the people in charge of the Republican Party can kind of see how the Democrat Party is more like academically serious and so forth, and they want more of that. And there is definitely this issue where there's not a lot of conservatives in government. There's not a lot of conservatives at the universities. There's not, we've ceded ground to the left in these certain areas where, for starters, significantly less conservatives are going to go into those areas anyways. And then because it's already kind of like left leaning, the conservatives just completely cede all ground. And the Republican Party wants to be thought of as like a serious intellectual party, like the Democrat Party is, and they're not. And so they want that. They want to be like, held in that kind of regard, but have conservative principles, which is real. I guess maybe I'm just speaking for myself. That's what I would like to see the Republican Party be. Right. I don't think that means that they want to adopt far left policies, but yes, they want to kind of be more like the Democrats. Hi, cutie. Thanks. Yeah, conservatism is on life support. It is. Well, it is, because the Republican Party is not a conservative party anymore. I would argue that the Conservative Party has not really been around in the United States since Ronald Reagan, frankly. Because George Bush was not that kind of a conservative. He was like kind of more like evangelical Republican. And then Donald Trump is not a conservative. He is a we call it America First. Let's call it America First. They're populists, right? Not conservatives. The Democrat Party, though, is a little different. The Democrat Party has extreme elements in the party. And, you know, the parties always kind of have to play this kind of game where, like, you know, they don't really want those supporters, but they kind of need those supporters. And I think that there's some level of that in the Republican Party. But the Democrat Party lately has just kind of been going full hog on it. They view that far left wing of the party as the future. The future. And the establishment is kind of saying, well, I don't know if I really fully understand what's going on here, but the kids and the people at the universities seem to be in favor of it, so let's just go along with it. Like, that's what the Democrat Party is doing. And so there are people on the Democrat side seeing all this stuff happen and just kind of going like, I don't know, like, let's just see how it works out, right? No, Democrats, you need to start pushing back on the extreme elements in your party because it is destroying the country. You've got to stop this stuff. There's some people are, you know, like the Bill Maher and these types that are kind of like, hey, you guys are getting rid of free speech, and they're kind of starting to realize that it's going on, but it's not enough. And then there's all of these people that do realize that it's happening, but I don't know, they just kind of act like, well, you can't do anything about it. But I really think that more people should be stepping up and saying, like, hey, you know what, like, what's going on with the border? What my party is doing on the border is bad. This needs to end. This is causing problems. People are going to get hurt. Yeah, Democrat Party changes with the winds. They try to pace youth trends and use social pressure while the old people get on board. Republicans, meanwhile, are just turning into 90s Democrats. Yes. Well, yeah. To be frank, Bill Clinton worked. I don't like saying that, but Bill Clinton was an extremely successful politician and extremely successful policymaker. And so to some extent, that did shift the window. So the conservative thing to do should be to, you know, adopt policies that have worked in the past. And some of those were Clinton-esque policies, yes. So you're right. The Republicans are kind of becoming like 90s Democrats. It is. You think people getting hurt is the point? Well, for that far left, it is, yeah. Like that's the thing is that they're sitting here going like, oh, well, yeah, I don't know. Let's let these kids see where these kids take it. But what they don't understand is that a large, a non-trivial portion of these extremists on the left really just want to end America. They really do. Don't take my word for it. Go and look at what they say at rallies and stuff. They are 100% in on destroy capitalism, destroy America, etc., etc. Because they think that America was like fundamentally racist country, and the only way to fix that is to destroy the country and start from the ground up with those oppressed minorities taking charge. That's what they think, and that's what some of those extremists are pushing. And everybody in the Democrat Party is just kind of like looking the other way and pretending to not see it. And they end up being useful idiots because probably what, you know, if things go south, probably what ends up happening is an authoritarian steps in, right? That is usually how it goes. Okay, I am new here. May I ask, what's the platform you are using for the DOM? Is it Ninja? No, it is not. So I do have NinjaTrader, and I use NinjaTrader charts, but the NinjaTrader DOM is not very good, and I am using Jigsaw Daytrader for my charts. Or sorry, Jigsaw Daytrader for my DOM. So I have an affiliate link in the video description if you want to look into Jigsaw a little bit more, but it's the best DOM, and I couldn't trade without it. I really love it. You know, immigration is one of those areas where you can kind of see this shift in the Democrat Party the most, right? Because the Democrat Party is, so like when I talk about conservatives, they have this idea, like what actually is conservatism? It's an approach to change, right? We don't just try every crazy idea out there willy-nilly, because that those have possible impacts. So we kind of have to have a process to change that's slow and methodical. And there are some ideas that we've seen in the past that we know don't work, right? The Democrat Party, they are like, we want to do the new things, but that's not really their philosophy, right? That's like their personality and that tendency and why they're possibly in the Democrat Party. But I don't think that you would ever see any of them enumerate it like, I want to try whatever is the new thing, yada, yada, yada. Like, they don't approach it that way, right? They have like a philosophy. And I think one of the biggest and strongest parts of the Democrat philosophy over the last, let's say, Jimmy Carter and since, has been about helping the American worker, essentially. That's really what the Democrat Party was about, is we want to help regular people. A noble goal. I would argue that probably the best thing that you can do is get out of the way. It really bothers me that it's always like one of the things that I see a lot of Republican or Democrats pushing on like TikTok right now is like, why is it that they're able to pass this thing? Like, they're able to pass a TikTok ban, but they're not able to pass all of these laws that would help people. Why is it that you need the government to come in and do something about it? Why not we just create a good environment and let people succeed through their own efforts? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a Republican. That's like personal responsibility and stuff. Okay, but like that's their approach, right? But I don't think that that's the Democrat Party anymore. Because, in the 90s, when that was what the Democrat Party was, they opposed illegal immigration, right? Or at least publicly they opposed illegal immigration, right? You can find all of these clips of Biden railing against illegal immigration and saying that we need to do something about it and yada, yada, yada. And now he's letting everybody across the border. What's with that, huh? They changed, and they let the far left take over the party, and that's probably George Soros, probably a big factor there, because he's really, really lobbied hard for like open borders and all that kind of nonsense. But that's where you can see it change. And so maybe it's ironic that if Donald Trump wins the election this year, that it will probably be the Democrats' embrace of open borders that was like the most destructive to Joe Biden's campaign. Well, that and inflation. But that's kind of a little ironic too. No more usefully than repug nuts. One of the things that I think is funny about most of the online discussion that we have in the United States about the political parties is, I'd say that most people hate both parties. But the reason that most people hate both parties is because of what goes on in Congress. And the reality in Congress right now is you just can't get anything done anyways. You know? So when we're talking about that sort of a thing, I would rather that people talk about the possible benefits and problems with like philosophies, political philosophies, rather than like the tribal group stuff. Oh, you know, like these Democrats, I hate these Democrats. No, I don't hate Democrats. What I hate is woke philosophy. I think that woke philosophy is just completely wrong and objectively harmful to society, right? I don't think that that's the case with conservatism. I could see how you might argue that conservatism is doing the wrong thing and they're misguided and everything, but like if you truly hate conservatism, I think there's something wrong with you. Because it's a reasonable thing to want to have some amount of respect for the past and to be intentional and about how we go about with change and things like that. You might have other priorities that you think are more important, but it's still, I think most people would say, isn't a reasonable way for somebody to believe. This woke stuff, though, it's a freaking mind virus, man. Like it makes no sense when you really, really dig into it, and it's poisonous. Like the places that adopt this philosophy are just gone completely downhill. But when I start to see all of these news headlines come out in a way, and these are headlines that like, these are terrifying headlines for a lot of people. And it's not just one party trying to scare everybody either, or the media trying to scare people either. I think that there's like, you know, things are happening that are just very triggering for a lot of people. It's escalating, and I don't like the way that it's going. That last little leg higher in the treasuries, well, I'm glad that I got out of that short. Seems a little surprising to me, though. Are we above yesterday's height? We're right at yesterday's highs. Very curious. Well, we still have bar at 10 Mountain Time, noon Eastern Time, and Bostic basically when the market closes. Did you see that new TV show Quiet? Was that on HBO? Because I saw a documentary on HBO. Well, like it was advertised to me, and I've definitely seen people talking about that documentary that you're talking about. Well, this is the one particularly about Nickelodeon that's blowing up, right? The Ariana Grande thing. Does so my kids really love the Disney shows that Ariana Grande did. I'm not a huge fan, and like her in particular, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. I'm really surprised that turned into this pop star, you know. But so, and anytime that there's headlines about Ariana Grande, you know, it just kind of, you know, perks my ears up. I notice it simply because of my kids, right? And pretty much every story that I've seen about Ariana Grande in the past few years has been negative. Like, she sounds like a real, they use words, I'm a little disappointed in some of her behavior. There's like home wrecker stuff and all these. It's like she basically wrecked somebody else's relationship and then made a song that's like, what are you gonna do about it, sort of a thing. What? Okay, but then you look at the Nickelodeon and the things that apparently happened to her while she was there at Nickelodeon. It clearly screwed her up, right? Clearly screwed her up. The Daily Wire and Candace Owens have ended their relationship. Well, I never really liked Candace Owens anyways. She has her moments, but I kind of think that Candace, you know what? I'm just opinion everything today, aren't I? But look, I'm going to share the opinion. I think that Candace Owens is a grifter. I don't think that she came into this and was like, okay, I have a view of the world and that has come from great study and understanding politics and having experiences over the years. No. What she did is she said, I want to become a political activist, and she threw darts at the wall until something kind of sticked, and then that is what drove her ideology, was her popularity on social media, which basically turns into like saying the craziest things. I've never liked her. I feel like she's a grifter. She's got some good takes every once in a while, but overall I don't like her. That's interesting though that she, because you know what, Ben Shapiro, I don't like every take that Ben Shapiro has, but you know, I can tell that guy knows what's going on and that he knows how to run like a good business and everything, right? And there's been a number of issues with them, the Daily Wire, like this thing with Steven Crowder, for instance, right? And I think that the Daily Wire made the smart choice in every instance. Yeah, Candace Owens was a far leftist social justice wire. She tried creating a doxing site for social media. Everyone hated it, even the left. She disappeared for 6 months and then popped back up a conservative. And I'm actually shocked how many terminally online people forgot that. Yeah. Well, I didn't know that she tried to create a doxing site. I hadn't heard that before, but I do remember, all of the people on the Donald website, whenever she come up arguing about, she used to be a far leftist that not that long ago, right? And that's why I say it's like it's grifting. Like she didn't just, because I can understand somebody can come in and see what's going on in this country and have an ideological shift. And it is happening. There are a lot of people that are seeing what the Democrat Party has become, are leaving it and finding solace, I guess you could say, in conservatism, right? But like the speed with which she went from like total far left social media personality to total far right social media personality and everything, and you can just see it in the takes that she takes and what she decides to push and everything. She is driven primarily by trying to elevate herself on social media. Yeah, it just 6 months is kind of like a little too extreme. Like I could understand somebody going like in 6 months switching, and then over time as you start to understand the world from your new perspective, you start talking about it. But she was just like right from the get-go, like, no, I'm sorry, that somebody is just trying to make money. And I'm sure she probably has made tons of money from it. Sure looks to me like she's made tons of money from it. Someone has to make your tacos, yeah, but I kind of feel like that the person that makes my tacos should be like a teenager and not. This is something that really bothers me in society, is that the number of full-grown adults that are still working minimum wage jobs and things like that, and they're not able to progress onto careers. And for illegal immigrants in particular, they're kind of trapped in that. Like when I was a missionary and, basically all we did for a portion of my mission was talk to people that were here illegally, essentially. And many of these people were extremely, extremely smart. Like people that should have been doctors or engineers or lawyers in any other circumstance. But because they're here illegally, that limits their options. And so they're basically doing minimum wage things. It's sick. It's so wrong that we create this situation. And so nothing pisses me off more in this illegal immigration debate than when people say, well, somebody needs to do this work and that work. Oh, okay. So because we need cheap labor, it's okay to basically create a pseudo slave population. It's so wrong, guys. It's so wrong. Like, yeah, somebody has to make the tacos. It should be a citizen. I would love my tacos to be made by a Mexican, but he should be a citizen, and he should be making tons of money because he owns his own cart and stuff, right? And is becoming a successful businessman with an upper middle class lifestyle. That's what I want to see. No replies to that one, huh? I guess I was a little too strong on that opinion. I don't know. I feel really strongly about this. It doesn't. No, I'm telling you, Mexicans make better tacos. You can say that's racist, but it's the truth. Mexicans make better tacos. Yeah, illegal means illegal, like bad again. Well, but now you're just trying to use words. So. Listen, there are positive and negative impacts on society from illegal immigration. And I think that it's wrong to come in and say we should allow this thing because it has positive impacts for one group of people, when it has absolutely terrible and disastrous impacts for these other groups of people. And one of the groups of people that this has the most negative impact on is the illegal immigrants themselves. The countries where these immigrants are coming from, they are harmed from that. So that just encourages even more people to come over. And then you have this group of people that are basically illegal. And frankly, even if they all got a pathway to citizenship and were made legal, I think that there would still be some issues. Like, you're creating like a pseudo slave population. It's so messed up. So messed up. Strangely enough, though, on the Mexico thing, there's like a recent kind of movement and push that like Mexico is actually a better place to live. And you know what? There are some parts of Mexico that are better to live than the United States right now. Super narrow 9-tick initial breakout should be another 9 ticks or 9 tacos. Well, that kind of breakout on the upside did kind of like sputter out a little quickly, didn't it? The thing is, though, is that so the bottom of this, right? The bottom of this is really more down here like 19, right? Because there was this big jump up before the session started that I don't know where it was from. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's mostly Mexicans. You're probably right. It's probably slightly less than 50%. Like, Mexicans are probably the largest group, but at this point, it probably is more other countries. But I was being specific when I was talking about the tacos. Because listen, I've had tacos from immigrants that have come from many different South American countries, and the Mexicans were the best ones. I don't know why that is. That's just been my. That doesn't mean that all Mexicans are good at making tacos, but what I'm saying is that the best taco makers are Mexicans, by and large. That's true. Okay, looking at them, would this be a pulse deepener? Oh yeah, you asked. I was like, I think there was something I was supposed to talk about that Uzi mentioned here, and then it disappeared. So looking on my spread charts, don't you have your own spread charts? No, it's a flattener. Down. Remember, up, steep, down, flat. So which way is the indicator going? Down. It's flat. So it is a flattener. Is it a significant flattener? Well, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5, 6 points of flattener. I would say that's about an average for a move. So there was a bit of flattening. Let's come and look on a higher time frame here. Okay, so in the 2 and 10 year spread, down here at the bottom, we steepened considerably after the Federal Reserve, and then we've just kind of like slowly been mean reverting back to where it was. And they briefly touched it before bouncing. So we did flatten. I don't know if I can really say a whole lot about what would happen next, because the way that kind of goes kind of makes me think that, like, okay, they gave up all their gains and now it'll probably just go flatline, right? I think, though, I think there is some reason to think that we could continue to see some steepening next week, though. Because, well, what do we have next week in terms of news? I don't know if that matters, but, you know, I think that one of the big things that we're coming out with right now is that the higher interest rates are going to stay high for a long time. Under the current scenarios that the market is looking at, yeah, they're going to cut rates, but not by very much. And so that should result in the curve steepening back out to some extent. Basically, you've got a yield curve that's like upside down right now. Let me try and use a stronger. You've got a yield curve that's kind of a little bit upside down right now. And we should be moving to a yield curve that's kind of a little bit like these short-term rates should be down a little bit, but then the longer-term rate should be more like this, right? So that's actually the yield curve steepening. This is where I tell you what, thinking about the spreads a lot and analyzing it every day is like a very, very useful thing, because it's really hard to, like, in your head do like all of the flips and stuff, right? Like, I can draw this picture for you that this is an inverted yield curve. This is like this is like the 2-year and bills, and this is the 30-year over on this side, right? And this is yield percentage, and that's the chart that people always show you. Like, if you go to a website, they teach you, like, what does the yield curve mean? That's the picture that they're going to show you, right, is of yields. But that's not what we're trading over here, right? We're trading over here. We're trading the treasuries. So if you know and you have it memorized and it's just like second nature to you, down is flat, up is steep, and you have your DOMs all set up correctly. With the treasuries, you have the ZB on the left and ZF, the shorter term treasuries, on the right, then it will show you the same thing, right? Look at the slope of them. Up is steep, down is flat. And that's why I have my yields here the opposite way, so that it's still the same thing. Up is steep, down is flat. Because really what you're doing is you're flipping it like this way. You're flipping it horizontally, right? But with this way, you don't have to do that flipping. You just know which way it is. And then you can start thinking about what flows might be causing that to happen. This move up, though, is I don't know what's causing that. I don't know what that's about. And I would say it's fairly significant, because when you come back on here, can you see where we were kind of like, there was the stop zone, and we've been writing the stops, that stop zone this whole time, right? Like that's kind of got the look of something that could continue to me, except for that, like, it's Friday and I don't know why it's doing that. Flight to taco. You guys really like tacos, don't you? Dude, I remember this one time when I was a missionary. Because again, there are missionaries that they're Spanish speaking missionaries, right? So there was an odd number of Spanish speaking missionaries. So I was an English speaking missionary with a Spanish speaking companion, and missionary work with Spanish people, Spanish speaking people is just better. Okay. Like, you have more success among the Spanish speaking population than you do among the general American public. Okay. So that means we spent all of our time working primarily with Spanish speaking people, and most of them were illegal immigrants. And I remember there was this one family that we would hang out with a lot. They were members of the church. And the people would feed us for dinner, right? So the one time they fed us, and I ate so much crap. Because, like, they came out and they're like, okay, like, the first thing that we're going to have is tacos, right? And actually they call it tacos? They made that stuff. What is it called? Mole. Yeah, that's what it is. Mole. It's like it's a taco with chicken, but like the chicken is in this like spicy chocolate sauce. Okay, it's brown. You can buy it at the grocery store. Go and look for it. So I'm like, oh, that was really good. I want another one of those. Okay, so here's where they get you. Here's where they get you. Okay, a real what are these called? What is the bread part called? Man, I'm telling you, I did not sleep very well last night. Tortillas, okay? Like, a real Mexican tortilla is deceptively filling. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have like 2 of those tacos, and I'm like, okay, I think that was a good meal. I think I'm done. I'm full. Okay. They still had 5 more courses coming. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. They gave me one of those fried ones and all this stuff. And then at the very end, I'm like, oh, I'm so full. I can't eat anymore. No. You have to eat the sherbet ice cream to soothe the stomach. And I'm just sitting there, no, wait, we can't do it. And that was the other thing, is that their goal was to make you uncomfortably full. And they really, I think they played me. They knew. They're like, I see, we're going to get them with the tortillas at the beginning. Did you go to tacos number 1? No, I never did. A lot of interest. I don't know. I would like to go back to New York and see where I go with it. But that's probably never going to happen. It is not the same city as when I went there. I remember the one place, like the only place I can really remember eating in New York was the pizza place under the Brooklyn Bridge. It's like Grimaldi's or something like, I forget the name of it. Though my understanding is that like it closed during COVID or something. And then there's another place that was like the same recipe and they've taken over or something like that. But I remember that. Most of the time when I was in New York, though, I just ate at like Subways and stuff because most New York food was expensive, but the fast food chains were still the same prices everywhere else. So I would just do that and then saved up everything that I made from the, saved from eating. I saved money from eating and I took that. It wasn't that much, but I used that to buy like some new clothes and DJ equipment. So I actually did kind of like reinvest it. And I even made more money off of that even. It's kind of weird when I go back and think about it because part of me is like, maybe I should have just put that stuff in the stock market. Probably would be worth a lot today. But like, I got this mixer and all of this audio equipment. It all came from that, from like the stuff that I bought from that and then like reselling and upgrading that. Because every time that I did it, I made more on it than what I paid for it. It was really weird. Probably just luck, but some of my best trades have been switching out DJ equipment. So I didn't eat at as many nice places in New York as I could have. Bitcoin is not doing so hot today. They continue to go down and they are starting to touch 6,300 now. Kind of interesting because the market, this seems like more activity than I would normally expect on a No News Friday. So I had come back here. I was talking about next week. What do we get next week? Does it turn quiet next week or CB consumer confidence on Tuesday? Final GDP on Thursday. Home sales, consumer sentiment, core PCE. Fed Chair Powell talks. Moderated discussion at Kai Rysdahl at the Macroeconomics Center. Okay, so that's a pretty big deal. March 29th, next Friday. This week, though, so one of you were saying that he's speaking again, but I don't see that. He just gave opening remarks at a Fed Listens event, and he didn't say much of anything interesting. That's already passed. Bostic, he's speaking at a fireside chat at the Household Finance Conference. So that's going to be basically after the market closes. But I think that there's likely to be some relevant stuff in what Bostic says. So that'll be one of those things that you won't want to miss because the market won't react to it. You probably won't see stories about it. But I think that he could say some useful things. Then Barr is speaking 10 about international economic and monetary design at the Transnational Law Virtual Conference. Audience questions expected. Well, I think with the equity markets having opened here now, be a good time to catch up on our stocks because we didn't really get to look at that yesterday, shall we? Treasuries have reverted back to where they were, so that definitely puts me in. I don't think I want to do anything with them today. Yeah, so my rare earth element resources back down another 12% today. That just goes up and down like too much on a daily basis. Bitcoin things aren't doing well. Oh, you know what? We need to add something into the memes. I totally forgot about this. Reddit. RDDT. One of the funniest comments I saw about that one is like, why is the ticker symbol not RTD? RTDED. Right. Anyways, okay, they're down 7%. They're down to $7, really. So, I had gotten the stuff like, you can participate in it, and I filled it out and everything, but like I never got anything back from them after that. And then on Reddit itself, there was a lot of people that said, like I asked for X shares and I didn't get very many. So it sounds to me like, despite all of the negative sentiment and discussion around it, that the Reddit IPO was pretty good. Now I'm just looking at this RDDT. It's at 4608, but that is not what. Oh, okay, here it is. Oh, the market cap is 7.32 billion. Gotcha. Not that. That's the last price right there. $46. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little warning here. Options for Reddit will start trading on Monday. So we're going to be looking at that first thing. Make sure I don't forget. We want to look at the options right on the open, because I'm a betcha. So with it being with the price at $50, I don't think that that's a game that I'm going to play, because they're going to be too expensive. But I'm going to bet you that everybody's going to go in on puts on Monday. So you could see some dramatic selling on Reddit on Monday. But anyways, so once I put Reddit on there, they're the biggest loser today in the meme stock area. Magnificent 7. Ooh, Google up 2%. So there was a story that Apple wanted to use Google Gemini on their iPhones or something like that. And I thought that was kind of funny, because everybody's like, oh, well, there's no way I would trust Gemini. Right? And then Apple's like, oh, that's exactly the kind of AI that we want to have. I don't know. I'm trusting the large language models less and less. Okay. I've never had a large language model spit out code to me that worked, for starters. And not only that, but I've had the large language models, like I thought, oh, okay, well, but like I could ask it a question like, okay, what about this particular technical issue with the particular code? Like, what do you have to worry about with this or that or whatever, right? And I've had the large language models just give me outright false answers on these many, many, many times. Things that it's like I search for it and I don't find an easy answer on like Stack Overflow. Then you ask the GPT, like they're always wrong. It's like I do not trust the GPTs. But when I'm like doing writing advice and I just want to see like different ways of writing it and, things to kind of spur creativity and things like that, works really, really well. But like the way that I think that people would use it for iPhones has something a little bit like, okay, I wouldn't trust that, but okay. Let's hear Eddie. Good morning. I was checking this level on ES to go long. What do you think? Well, so I'm not really seeing enough in our flows today. So Powell spoke. He didn't say very much. There was some overnight weakness. There is some movement going on in the Japanese yen, but we are into the end of the week, so people will be reluctant to take new positions and will take profits on old positions. So that doesn't give me a very clear direction in terms of flows as to which way these instruments are going to be going. I think that if I was in the S&P 500, that it would probably be pretty safe to assume going long to some degree. But like, what is going to be a good price to do it at? I don't know. Because like if we broke down here and you started to get filled at 52.92 all the way back to 85, well, who knows how far that's actually going to go. So trying to pick your positions based on like specific prices like that on an intraday basis generally isn't going to work very well. There's just a lot of luck involved in that. Trying to pick the exact price that it's going to turn around. You're not really going to see it. But what you can do is you can come in and say, well, I think that the flows are going to be long today. So then if we start moving down, if I still believe in the trade, I'm going to be watching the flows for, it turning things around a little bit and seeing a shift in the volume and so forth. So that's how I would play that sort of a thing rather than looking for some magic level. Okay. Where were we? Rare earths. A little mixed. New nuclear. SMR down again today, but not nearly as dramatically, only about 2% today. Our consumer stocks are down. Our techs are a little bit mixed. A lot of our financials are down. Semiconductors. This is a really varied market. Dogs, very, very, very mixed. I'd say kind of more leaning towards the long side, though, on those ones. Soundhound down 8% today. Oof. Nike is down 8% this morning. What happened there? Wowzer. Was there there was earnings last night. Nike earnings not so good, huh? Let's look at that on a daily basis. Oof. That's a little dangerous. So you're getting a real down gapper there on Nike and right next to a previous support level too. That's I have to watch that one over the next few days to see if the momentum in that continues down. They don't like Jordan anymore. I don't know. I bet you CNBC has the answers for us. I was going to click on that link down there, but then I realized it was a pro article. Consumers becoming more erratic and price sensitive, says Jefferies' Randy Koenig. Sounds like some analysts. Oh, come on. News. There we go. Nike reported holiday sales that beat expectations, but its growth in China continued to slow. The company is in the midst of a broad restructuring to cut costs by about $2 billion over the next 3 years. Sales in North America grew 3%, higher than analysts had expected. But the market really doesn't like that. So China, them losing luster in China. All I'm saying, and look, I'm not saying that any of these chart patterns are predictive or anything like that, okay, but that is a gap down at a very crucial kind of level. So I think that is a stock worth watching next week. Surprised I didn't see anything about it on Zero Hedge. So let's well, I did miss anything else on here? Boeing up 2%. Nothing too much over there. Okay, on Zero Hedge, their top story is still about the riot on the border where they pushed through the National Guard. And the CIA accused of directly meddling in Hunter Biden IRS Department of Justice investigations. This one, you know what? I don't know what to think of this story here where a schoolgirl was nearly beaten to death, but apparently the family of the girl that did the beating was saying that she's the real victim. Okay. Lululemon shares tumble on cautious consumer outlook. So I'm seeing a lot of retailers kind of say these sorts of things. Maybe we really do need to cut interest rates. Well, I think by the time May, June comes along, we'll know. We'll know. Oh, look, they did have a story on Zero Hedge about Nike. Nike warns of sales squeeze during sneaker shift. Everyone is panicking. Yeah, you should get in on the chocolate now, guys, before... Go to the store, stock up on chocolate. Because there ain't going to be much of it left. It's getting expensive over in the cocoa market. Wow. You know what, Nassim, I'm not going to read this tweet because it's not really relevant, but Nassim Taleb has become completely useless since the Palestinian conflict. That's all he cares about is that. Jimmy Oreo talking about squatters. Oh, it has resulted in a murder, huh? Police are looking for two who murdered a woman who traveled from Spain to get the apartment ready to be occupied by a family friend. It had been vacant for months after the death of her mother. Nada didn't know. When she went to the apartment, the two squatters had been living there. She had no idea she would end up in a body bag. It was the squatters killed the homeowner. Oh my. Why did some American cities decide to forego property rights? Its undermining was gradual at first and then accelerated during COVID. Landlords essentially have no right to evict squatters today. Local news reported that a homeowner in Queens was arrested by the police for changing the locks on men she says are squatting in her home. Another family in Douglaston has been unable to move into a $2 million home they purchased due to a man who refuses to leave. If you can't enforce property rights, you basically have the People's Republic of New York. That's what empathy is getting you now, is smiling from his grave. So there's just another little story there. I'm nervous about where that goes next week, guys. So do I see anything about that? So if I come over to say Hot Air, they have a story about that. Rumors of a charcoal or gas grill ban in New York. You can't ban charcoal. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Please tell me this is a joke. You're going to ban the most American of all American activities in barbecuing? What? This is, I'm just, you know what? All of these other things, the border, etc., they bothered me, of course. But this is a bridge too far. You cannot ban barbecue. I will not put up with that. one interesting thing about the war against coal is the impact it has on... Oh, that's a really interesting point, because it takes a lot of coal to do steel production, doesn't it? So, you know, I should note there is stuff going on with Israel today, because apparently the United States is going to submit this draft position that they had kind of talked about doing before and didn't do, basically calling for a ceasefire in exchange for the hostages being exchanged. I don't think that it's going to change anything, like we're saying, by, you know, it's just kind of grandstanding, but it's going to affect the kind of geopolitical situation is pretty significantly. I think that Israel is going to be highly incensed by this move. The West will use Chinese still, since China is the only one who is allowed to use coal. Yeah, right. This is so dumb. It takes a lot of energy, right? Like those plants, they need, like, the amount of power that they need to smelt and everything. It's crazy. And like, we don't have, in many cases, we don't have the infrastructure in the United States to even have processing plants like that anymore. Spring has arrived here in New York State. Not that you would know it looking at the current weather forecast, and that means the grilling season is once again upon us. Those who follow my social media streams know that we have a spring ritual at my house where I load up the grill with charcoal and toss on some steaks. This year, however, some disturbing rumors have been making the rounds. New York tends to follow the trends set by states like California, and the climate alarmists have been banning things like natural gas and other supposed carbon demons. Some legislators in the state capitol have been making noise about extending those bans to propane and even charcoal, which would be bad news for grilling fans. This has led to rumors flying around local media outlets, such as this one from WYRK in Buffalo, ominously titled, "The End of Outdoor Grilling in New York?" The spring of 2024 has arrived, and it is time to break out the grill, smoker, or barbecue. But what does New York State have planned for the future of your propane or charcoal grill? There are rumors that a statewide ban on various gas and coal wood-fired items may be looming in New York State. If you love gas grills like I do, have you wondered what lies ahead when it comes to the laws? New York State does tend to follow other states when it comes to progressive laws, and there is a chance that it may happen again. Fortunately, for some people like me, there is no such law currently being considered by the state government, at least not yet. Another news outlet reached out to Governor Kathy Hochul's office for comment, and they quickly replied the news situation was informed that the state is not pursuing any bans on outdoor propane or charcoal grills. So that would appear to be where the situation stands today, but Hochul's office may as well have included the phrase "at this time" at the end of their statement, because you know for a fact that they are thinking and talking about it. They would dearly love to be able to ban outdoor grills, because that's far too much of an American activity. You're not supposed to be eating steaks and burgers. They want you living in a pod and eating bugs, or more recently, moles. What? Oh geez, what? Also, charcoal and propane anger the climate goodness and must be pulled. I don't know. I'm kind of looking at this like I think that enough liberals barbecue also, that they would kind of view that as a bridge too far. Especially since this is supposed to be for climate change. You really think that like people barbecuing is that major of a factor to climate change? Come on. It's absolutely ridiculous. Both New York and California have already taken steps in that direction. New York has banned the installation of natural gas lines in new construction starting in 2026. California recently banned the sale of single-use propane tanks, such as the ones used in camping grills. And Albany has been discussing that as well. Could a ban on the larger refillable propane tanks used in barbecue grills be far behind? From there, it's only a small step to banning the sale of bags of charcoal. In that way, The state wouldn't really have to ban the possession of a grill. They would simply outlaw any method of practically heating it up so you can cook on it. I believe so. Now they're speculating. Who is writing this? Jazz. Yeah, all right, whatever. I believe that deep down in her dark heart, Governor Hartzell knows that trying to ban outdoor grilling would be a step too far even for her. It's a way of life in upstate New York, and people would be up in arms. Hochul came within less than 10 points of losing her last election. She doesn't need an angry mob of men wearing barbecue aprons and waving spatulas showing up outside her mansion. The optics would be terrible. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Listen, this is my demographic, right? You'll find out if you're not that age yet. And the age it happens for different, but somewhere between 35 and 40, you will be inducted into the older manhood guild, and you will have to make a choice as to whether or not you want to become a meat smoking specialist or a World War II specialist. So, yes, if they banned barbecues, we would definitely be out there protesting. But as I said, that's just how the situation stands today. What tomorrow may bring is unknown. When you give these Democrats an inch, they take a mile. They got away with banning natural gas in new construction projects. If that rule holds up under appeal, they will be eyeing their next steps eagerly. So if the day comes when the grilling ban falls upon us, and my posts suddenly stop showing up here, you'll know what's up. I'll be in jail. Hopefully my wife will post a link to a bail fund on social media after seeing what they're doing. Jump in New York City, they'll probably try to charge me with $1 million to get my grill back. Wow. I kind of half suspect that Jazz Shaw is being alarmist here. But he is pointing out where they've kind of banned some things, so that's interesting. But I don't see anything about that story about a woman being killed by a squatter, so. Let's read this story. Retirement crisis faces government and corporate pensions. Authored by Lance Roberts via realinvestmentadvice.com. These are usually pretty good. It's a long past time that we face the fact that Social Security is facing a retirement crisis. In June 2022, we touched on this issue, discussing the stark realities confronting Social Security. The program's payouts have exceeded revenue since 2010, but the recent past is nowhere near as grim as the future. According to the latest annual report by Social Security's trustees, the gap between promised benefits and future payroll tax revenue has reached a staggering $59.8 trillion. That gap is $6.8 trillion larger than it was just 1 year earlier. The biggest driver of that move wasn't COVID-19, but rather a lowering of expected fertility over the coming decades. When President Roosevelt first enacted Social Security in 1935, the intention was to serve as a safety net for older adults. However, at that time, life expectancy was roughly 60 years. Therefore, the expectation was that participants would not be drawing on Social Security for very long on an actuarial basis. Furthermore, according to the Social Security Administration, roughly 42 workers contributed to the funding pool for every welfare recipient in 1940. Given that politicians like to use government coffers by votes, additional amendments were added to Social Security to expand participation in the program. This included adding domestic labor in 1950 and widows and orphans in 1956. They lowered the retirement age to 62 in 1961 and increased benefits in 1972. The politicians added more beneficiaries, from disabled people to immigrants, farmers, railroad workers, firefighters, ministers, federal, state, and local government employees. While politicians and voters continued adding more beneficiaries to the welfare program, workers steadily declined. Today, there are barely 2 workers for each beneficiary, as noted by the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. Social Security has been a cornerstone of economic security for almost 90 years, but the program is on unsound footing. Social Security's combined trusts funds are projected to be depleted by 2035, just 13 years from now. A major contributor to the sustainability of the current Social Security program is that the number of workers contributing to the program is growing more slowly than the number of beneficiaries receiving monthly payments. In 1960, there were 5.1 workers per beneficiary, and that ratio has dropped to 2.8 today. As we will discuss, the collision of demographics and math is coming to the welfare system. The new financial report of the United States government estimates that the financial position of Social Security and Medicare are underfunded by roughly $175 trillion. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen signed the report, but the chart below details the problem. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that Medicare is an even bigger problem. The obvious problem is that the welfare system's liabilities massively outweigh taxpayers' abilities to fund it. To put this into context, as of quarter 4 2023, the GDP of the United States was just $22.6 trillion. In that same period, total federal revenues were roughly $4.8 trillion. In other words, if we applied 100% of all federal revenues to Social Security and Medicare, it would take 36.5 years to fill the gap. Of course, that is assuming that nothing changes. However, therein lies the actuarial problem. All pension plans, whether corporate or government, rely on certain assumptions to plan for the future obligations. Corporate pensions, for example, rely on certain portfolio return assumptions to fund planned employee retirements. Most pension plans assume that portfolios will return 7% a year. However, a vast difference exists between average returns and compound returns, as shown. Social Security, Medicare, and corporate pension plans face a retirement crisis. A shortfall arises if contributions and returns don't meet expectations or demand increases on the plans. For example, given real-world return assumptions, pension funds should lower their return estimates to roughly 3 to 4% to potentially meet future obligations and maintain some solvency. However, they can't make such reforms because plan participants won't let them. It would require 30 to 40% increase in contributions by the plan participants, which people cannot afford. Given many plan participants will retire long before 2060, there isn't enough time to solve the issues, and any bear market will further impede the pension plan's ability to meet future obligations without cutting future benefits. Social Security and Medicare face the same intractable problem. Well, there is ample warning from the trustees that they are funding shortfalls to the plan. Politicians refuse to make the needed changes and instead keep adding more participants to the rolls. Take some water here. I think I signed us up for reading quite a long article, but I'm stick with it. We're going to finish reading this article. I want to hear about the coming retirement crisis. The single biggest threat that faces all pension plans is demographics. That single issue cannot be fixed as it takes roughly 25 years to grow a taxpayer. So even if we pass laws today that required all women of birthing age to have a minimum of 4 children over the next 5 years, we would not see any impact for nearly 30 years. However, the problem is running in reverse as fertility rates continue to decline. Interestingly, researchers from the Center for Sexual Health at Indiana University put forth some hypotheses behind the decline in sexual activity. Less alcohol consumption? Are you kidding me? That's what it is, guys. The reason us millennials aren't having enough kids is because we're not getting drunk enough. Okay, I digress. We continue on. More time on social media and playing video games. Lower wages lead to lower rates of romantic relationships and non-heterosexual identities. The apparent problem with less sex and non-heterosexual identities is fewer births. No matter how you calculate the numbers, the problem remains the same: too many obligations and a demographic crisis. As noted by the official OECD estimates, the aging of the population relative to the working age population has already crossed the point of no return. To compound that situation, there has been a surge in retirees significantly higher than estimates. As noted above, actuarial tables depend on an expected rate of retirees drawing from the system. If that number exceeds those estimates, a funding shortfall increases to provide the required benefits. The decline in economic prosperity discussed previously is caused by excessive debt and declining income growth due to productivity increases. Furthermore, the shift from manufacturing to a service-based society will continue to lead to reduced taxable incomes. The employment problem is critical. By 2025, each married couple will pay Social Security retirement benefits for one retiree and their own family's expenses. Therefore, taxes must rise and other government services must be cut. Back in 1966, each employee shouldered $555 of social benefits. Today, each employee has to support more than $18,000 in benefits. The trend is unsustainable unless wages or employment increases dramatically, and based on current trends, such seems unlikely. The entire support framework faces an inevitable conclusion where wishful thinking will not change the outcome. The question is whether elected leaders will make needed changes now or whether they are forced upon us. For now, we continue whilst past the graveyard on the retirement crisis. So, you know what? The thing is that there's like a bunch of different things that they can do to fix this. Like, you're right, the government don't want to do them. I'm not even sure that they would have to cut benefits. Like, they could, but they would have to do some things that people wouldn't like. Like, Republicans definitely wouldn't like to remove the cap. But that would help cover a portion of the shortfall. I think that they would probably need some other things too, but there's like, it's a solvable problem. I know. I read that whole story. I thought they were going to go somewhere and tell me something that I didn't already know, but I kind of felt like that was kind of a dud of a story. Kind of felt like that was a dud of a story.
Block sell.
Interesting sell there. I think it's spring because my eyes are starting to water a lot and stuff. Browsing Reddit here now, see if there's anything else interesting over there, but it looks like it's a slow start to Friday. Maybe everybody else had a hard time getting to bed last night too. Trump says I have the 500 million cash. I just don't want to pay the fine. Really? Let's see here. Let's see what he actually said in his words. Through hard work, talent, and luck, I currently have almost $500 million in cash, a substantial amount of which I intend to use in my campaign for president. The often overturned political hack judge on the rigged and corrupt attorney general case where I have done nothing wrong knew this, wanted to take it away from me, and that's why he came up with the shocking number, which, coupled with his crazy interest demand, is approximately $454,000. I did nothing wrong except win an election in 2016 that I wasn't expected to win, and did even better in 2020, and now lead by a lot in 2024. This is communism in America. Okay. He says that he has $500 million, but not a billion. Isn't what they want, like almost a billion? That's curious. Because they're arguing in court that they can't pay it, right? And there's even all of these rumors that like he could sell one of his big properties, right? Here's r/economics. Bloomberg. Immigration is fueling U.S. economic growth while politicians reach. Yes, but that doesn't mean that it's all sunshine and rainbows, guys. I bet you that there will be a lot of really good, solid discussion in the r/economics subreddit. No. Yes. Oh my gosh. This guy makes such a great point here. Okay. Almost every argument I've seen in favor of mass unfettered immigration goes like this. Mass migration equals higher supply of labor, which equals cheaper wage expense for business, which means more money for business, which means more money they spend on growing the economy. Literally just sounds like another version of trickle-down economics, except instead of keeping more money from tax cuts, businesses can keep more money from paying lower wages. Yes, that's exactly what they're arguing. It is, and listen, the more money that is in the economy, the better. That's why you want taxes to be low. But the money doesn't necessarily trickle down. It doesn't, like, if you put money and you give money to a certain class, that money tends to stay in that class. It doesn't disperse into other classes. And so they're right. What this essentially does is it enriches the rich at the expense of everybody else. So those same economic projections have GDP per capita shrinking. Overall economy grows. We get less of it. This isn't a fair deal. It's a plan to keep the extremely rich while paying for our less demanding replacements in the process. Ooh, that was shockingly populist and for Reddit. They're trying to replace us? So that sounds like a conspiracy theory to me. No, here's this stupid thing that, like, oh, we had a great immigration reform bill and Donald Trump prevented the GOP from. No, that's not what happened. There was no way that the GOP were going to go for that bill. It was a terrible bill. Okay, moving on. I think that all of the big guys are already, you know, taking the weekend early. Does a big iceberg get 23? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. That's a fairly big iceberg. Although seeing an iceberg like that this late in the day, it's not. Later in the session, it is the more suspicious I become of them. Ticks up. Took 6,890 to tick up. May just be because it's so tight, though. Anyone else see a clear class divide with millennials? Not sure if other generations had the same issue, but I keep seeing posts about how people barely are able to afford monthly payments on homes with the 6 to 8% interest rates. In my mind, it's crazy that something seemingly arbitrary as a 5-year difference entirely predicts whether you will live comfortably or barely. As it really is. Like, dude, if so, I'm an older millennial. If I was a peak millennials are like 33 right now. Probably wouldn't be able to afford a home. Well, maybe I take that back. I don't know. I probably would have gotten into a home before COVID, even if I was a peak millennial. But because I just really wanted to get in a house very quickly and knew that there was problems coming. But if I had not, then I would be probably screwed. Yay, new version of Rust is available.
Block cell.
Another big one there. Another big block cell. That's about 10 minutes after that first one. You know, I should come back here and check Reddit again. It looks like they're just kind of going sideways. So they've stemmed the bleeding for now. What the heck? There's a subreddit called Chubby Fire now instead of Fat Fire? Okay. Stupid question. Once you reach fire, do you lose all motivation to work? Probably not. The people that tend to work enough to be able to do things like retire early enjoy working. They might change the type of work that they do, but I don't think that they lose the motivation to work. Oh, we got 30 minutes left. This session has actually gone down fairly quickly, wouldn't you say? Maybe we should have done some programming today, man. This market is like, it's interesting. There's some big icebergs that are trading, but it's just really stuck in here. And social media is super quiet today as well. Cool. Biden seeks to boomerang the "Are you better off?" argument against former President Trump. Okay. Former President Trump's pitch to voters is simple. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? But when Trump posed the question himself on Truth Social this week, he was met with derision from Democrats and other critics. March 2020 was famously a great time for everyone, Senator Tim Kaine wrote on X. Are you flippin' kidding me? What? Hey. Again, we were literally hoarding toilet paper on this date 4 years ago. The Biden campaign launched a digital ad Thursday, opening with Trump's "Are you better off?" Truth Social post. Well, listen, it's really, the question isn't "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" It's are you better off than you were 5 or 6 years ago, right? I'd say for most people, probably not. Probably not. Are you better off framing is traditional for candidates running against an incumbent, but it may not be as straightforward for Trump, who was in office 4 years ago when the coronavirus pandemic was gripping the country. Polling has shown that voters still trust Trump more than President Biden on issues such as the economy and immigration, but the Biden campaign has been eager to remind voters that 4 years ago financial markets were sinking, the death toll in the United States was spiking, and Americans were urged to remain indoors and limit in-person interaction. No, because the market had recovered well before, like, the summer. So, like, no. I don't think that this argument is going to go well for him at all. It is this thing again, like, Joe Biden seems to have the worst political instincts, it seems. Like, he just buys hook, line, and sinker to every Democrat idea. Doesn't know when to be like, like, I know that that's what we say, but actually, like, nobody's gonna believe us. But Biden and his campaign have made clear that they will cite Trump's handling of the pandemic as a broader indictment of his ability to lead the nation through times of crisis. This one is like, again, seems like such a crazy political take, because you really think that things would be better if a Democrat was in charge? Nah, they would have just been more aggressive at shutting things down and probably would have hurt the economy more. The Democrat areas were the ones that were the hardest hit because they had the most strict policies. Didn't have those same problems here in Utah because we rarely shut down. Well, it was a few weeks and then everything opened back up. That's funny. Bloomberg says commercial real estate collapse could topple hundreds of banks. Okay. People have been telling me that like all year and it still hasn't happened though. So when is the doomer? When is the doom date? Because I thought it was supposed to already happen. Not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying, like, what? There's a subreddit called Best of Redditor Updates. My wife is addicted to the gym and it's ruining our marriage. Oh my gosh. Did it get 5292? Oh, it did. Listen, man, there's nothing that we have to predict what it's going to do next. We really don't. Like, I going back to like your original comment, you're kind of asking like, it seems to me at least that you're asking like, okay, like here's some numbers and stuff that I see on the chart. Do you also see that as well? And I'm like the worst person to ask for that sort of thing, because what I'm going to tell you is that shit doesn't matter. Like, what do we know that is going to cause people to buy or sell in the future? We don't know anything, not in this situation. So I just have no trade. You want to take the risk, go for it, you know, especially if it's a long, probably could work out for you. Probably could work out for you. I don't know how much further it will go first, you know, like how much heat you'll take, but I'd say that the probability is we tend to move up more than we move down, and the markets have been extremely bullish as of late. That probably you could make a winner out of a buy right now. But it's gambling. Gambling because I don't know anything that's going to really strongly predict the flows. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Oh, here's finally a story about Candace Owens being fired from the Daily Wire. Not a lot of commentary on it. What's this? You sell butt plugs on the internet with your daughter? You disgust me. I'm not afraid of you. Candace Owens? Like, what? What is he talking about? I think that there's supposed to be a joke in there that's just, I don't know what they're talking about. Her and Ben Shapiro were in conflict over Israel, likely a big reason she was like, oh yeah, probably. I can't blame the Daily Wire for cutting ties with a Hamas sympathizer. I'm closing some of my tabs now, and I had earlier clicked on, there was a new version of Rust available. The only comment on that thread is Rust a great place to start learning programming? Yeah, no, it's not. It's definitely not. The whole conversation is just that. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Oh, I missed that. There's the new Lean 8 Spring mixtape, and I'm gonna have to listen to that today. Yes, sir. Are you effing kidding me? Okay, I'm on YouTube here, and it's showing me a video that says trading naked, win big by selling naked puts, calls, strangles, ratio spreads, etc. Are you for real? Is there really somebody on YouTube promoting selling naked calls? Unironically, there is somebody. Are you guys wait guys, wake up. Wake up. There is somebody on YouTube unironically promoting selling naked calls. This is Hey Smitty, how you doing? Been a few days. Please tell me there are people in the comments of this telling him that how stupid this is. Nope. There is not. It's crazy. How many he has 8,000 subscribers. Oh, okay. I'm not gonna say who they are. I don't want this YouTuber to get popular. You know what I've been doing lately, though? I love it when I find a YouTube channel that I really like and has less than like 10,000 subscribers. So I don't count, apparently. Maybe we could say less than 25,000, but like smaller YouTube channels, and it just fits you. Those are the best. Those are the best. I sell covered calls all the time, but never naked calls? Yeah. Dude, like... the naked calls... the chances of you blowing your account with that sort of a thing is way too high. Especially in modern markets, right? That just seem to always go up and up and up. Man, I'm still thinking, you know what? I haven't put out a video in a while. I'm going to work really hard this weekend to make sure that we can have a video. I don't think that I'll record it this weekend, but we want to have a video available for like the week after that. We really need to get some of these out because it irks me so much. Some of the stuff that I see out there that there's like other people on YouTube unironically saying to sell naked options. Ugh. I will sell naked puts if I don't mind owning. Exactly. I want to go on a rant on why it's so bad. You know what? Let's let ChatGPT do it for us. Dear ChatGPT, why is it a really bad idea to sell naked calls? Let's ask her. Because I mean, I know the answer, but I just don't really feel like, going on about it, right? You lose a lot of money. Your potential losses are unlimited. Oh, she's given us a long response here. This is gonna take her a little bit to read out. Do you want to hear it in ChatGPT's own voice? Okay, here we go. Unmute this. Read out loud.
Selling naked calls is considered a very risky investment strategy for a few key reasons. 1. Unlimited loss potential. When you sell a naked call, you are selling the right to buy a stock at a specific price, the strike price, without owning the stock. If the stock price soars above the strike price, you are obligated to provide the stock to the buyer at the strike price, meaning you have to buy it at the market price and sell it at a lower price. The higher the stock goes, the more money you lose. There's theoretically no limit to how high a stock can go, so your potential losses are unlimited. 2. Margin calls and requirements. Selling naked calls often involves margin, meaning you are borrowing money from your brokerage to sell the calls. If the trade moves against you significantly, you might face margin calls, requiring you to deposit more money
At
or
11
securities
a.m.
into your
Eastern
account
time,
to
we get
cover the
Canadian
losses.
budget balance
Failure
prior
to meet
minus
margin calls can lead to the
billion.
brokerage closing your positions, potentially at a significant loss to you. 3. High volatility risk. Stock prices can be very volatile, and unexpected news or events can cause significant price jumps. If you've sold a naked call and the stock experiences a sharp increase in price due to, for example, a positive earnings report or other good news, your losses can escalate quickly. 4. No ownership benefits. When you sell a naked call, you miss out on any benefits of owning the stock, such as dividends or the ability to vote as a shareholder. You're taking on risk without any of the potential benefits of stock ownership. 5. Market risk. The stock market can be unpredictable, and selling naked calls exposes you to significant market risk. Economic changes, political events, or changes in investor sentiment can all lead to substantial market moves that could result.
Oh, she's not going to finish it? I was kind of enjoying listening to her. Psychological stress. Given the high risk and the potential for unlimited losses, selling naked calls can be extremely stressful, especially in volatile or fast-moving markets. This stress can lead to poor decision-making and exacerbable losses. Due to these risks, selling naked calls is generally recommended only for very experienced traders who have a thorough understanding of the market and are capable of managing significant risks. Many investors consider strategies that provide a more defined risk profile, such as selling covered calls where the seller owns the underlying stock, or using spreads to limit potential losses. Listen, if ChatGPT can write out 6 points as to why your strategy is so terrible, maybe you should be making YouTube videos promoting it. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right, I'm done, guys. Next week is a little bit of a quieter news week, but, we probably will still have some opportunities just because of where we're at with everything. So get your rest. This was the big week, though. I think that we did okay with it. At least I didn't lose any money, so whatever. But, guys, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Stay